Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 14, the story of King Vena. So we are in the section where the sages, they are going to now chastise Vena, text 29 to 35. So we come to text 34. The sages are extremely angry at the impudence of the Vena, and let us see what happens. इत्थं व्यवतिता हन्तुं ऋषयारूढमन्यवः निजग्नु कृतैवेनं हतं वेनं हृतमच्युतनिन्दया. Translation.
The great sages, thus manifesting their covert anger, immediately decided to kill the king. King Vena was already as good as dead due to his blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, without using any weapons, the sages killed King Vena simply by high-sounding words. Hare Krishna.
So the great sages, they immediately decided to kill the king. And hum kritam, simply by the hunkara matrena, hum krutaihi, very angrily, they were just, and with this hum krutaihi, what happened? Vena was instantly killed uh, on the throne. Another point here is Achyutanindaya. Hatam Achyutanindaya. Actually, he was dead. He was, because of doing Ninda of the Supreme Lord, Achyutanindaya, the king was actually a dead personality. Text 35. ऋषिभिः स्वाश्रमपदं गते पुत्रकलेवरं सुनीता पालयामास विद्यायोगेन शोचति. Translation.
Translation. After all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, the mother of King Vena, Sunita, became very much aggrieved because of her son's death. She decided to preserve the dead body of her son by the application of certain ingredients and by chanting mantras. Mantra Yogena. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now, after the sages returned to their respective hermitage, what happened? Sunitha, who was the mother of King Vena, she became very aggrieved by the death of her son's death. She had not gone to the forest along with King Aṅga. She had decided to stay back with Vena, and she was matching with great frequency with Vena. Vena was like her mother, and her mother was like her father, death personified, all three of them. She decided to preserve the dead body of the son by application of certain ingredients and mantra yogena, chanting some mantras. So vidya yogena here is chanting mantras and the herbs both. So there are techniques to preserve the body, and these are some of the techniques. You will be surprised to know, at the South Indian Matha, Ramanujam Charya's body is still maintained. So they have maintained that for thousands of years. So this is Mantvidya Yogena. Text 36. Now 36 to 41, the sages are going to observe great disturbance within the society. Why? Because the king is no more, and because of the want of the king, there is a lot of unscrupulous element who are taking advantage. Text 36. एकदा मुनयस्ते तु सरस्वत्या लीलाप्लुप्त सरस्वत्या सलिलाप्लुता हुताग्निं सत्कथा चक्रुः उपविष्टा सरित्तटे. Translation.
Once upon a time, the same saintly persons, after taking their bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily duties by offering oblations into the sacrificial fire. After this, sitting on the bank of the river, they began to talk about the transcendental person and his pastimes.
Text 37. वीक्ष उत्थितान् तदा उत्पातान् आहुलोका भयङ्करान् अपि अभद्रम् अनाथाय दस्युभ्या न भवेत् भुवः. Translation.
In those days, there were various disturbances in the country that were creating a panic in society. Therefore, all the sages began to talk amongst themselves. Since the king is dead and there is no protector in the world, misfortune may befall the people in general on account of rogues and thieves. Purport: whenever there is a disturbance in the state or a panic situation, the property and lives of the citizens become unsafe. This is caused by the uprising of various thieves and rogues. At such a time, it is to be understood that the ruler or the government is dead. All of these misfortunes happened due to the death of King Vena. Thus, the saintly persons became very anxious for the safety of the people in general. The conclusion is that even though saintly persons have no business in political affairs, they are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they are always aloof from the society out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. That was the concern of these sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras. Harer Nama eva kevalam, Kalau nasteva gatiranyatha. Both the spiritual and material prosperity, everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
So when the great sages they observed, they could observe Bhayankaran, the great misfortune, and they concluded that because of the absence of the king, all these great misfortunes are happening, and especially the Syubihi, the plunderers, plundering everything. Text 38. Evam Rishantarushyo Dhavatam Sarvato Disham Pamsu Samathito Bhuran Choranam Abhiplutam. Translation.
When the great sages were carrying on their discussion in this way, they saw a dust storm arising from all directions. The storm was caused by the running of thieves and rogues who were engaged in plundering the citizens. Purport: thieves and rogues simply await some political upset in order to take the opportunity to plunder the people in general. To keep thieves and rogues inactive in their profession, a strong government is always required. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. And when they were discussing like this, suddenly there was a dust storm all around, and all these thieves and rogues, they were engaged in plundering the citizens. And the purport Srila Prabhupada explains that the thieves and rogues simply await for the political upset. And the political upset we have seen recently in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, almost all neighboring countries. So, and how there is a complete anarchy, lawlessness on the streets, and people are looted, burnt alive, and this is the symptom of political upset. And therefore, a very strong government is always the need of the hour. Text 39-40. Tat उपद्रवमाज्ञाय लोकस्य वसुलुम्पताम् भर्तरि उपर्ते तस्मिन् अन्योन्यं च जिघांसताम् चोरप्रायज्जनपदम् हीनसत्त्वम् अराजकम् लोकान् अवारयन् शक्ता अपि तत्तोषदर्शिनः. Translation.
Translation: Upon seeing the dust storm, the saintly persons could understand that there were a great deal of irregularities due to the death of King Vena. Without government, the state was devoid of law and order, and consequently, there was a great uprising of murderous thieves and rogues who were plundering the riches of the people in general. Although the great sages could subdue the disturbance by their powers, just as they could kill the king, they considered it improper on their part to do so. Thus, they did not attempt to stop the disturbance. Purport: The saintly persons and great sages killed King Vena out of emergency, but they did not choose to take part in the government in order to subdue the uprising of thieves and rogues, which took place after the death of King Vena. It is not the duty of Brahmanas and saintly persons to kill, although they may sometimes do so in the case of an emergency. They could kill all the thieves and rogues by the prowess of their mantras, but they thought it the duty of Kshatriya kings to do so. Thus, they reluctantly did not take part in the killing business. Hare Krishna.
So, very important words. So, upon seeing this dust storm, they could realize that there were great irregularities around, and thus the state was devoid of the law and order. There was a great uprising of the murderers, rogues, and thieves. Now, the next line: although the great sages could subdue the disturbance by their powers, just as they had killed King Vena, they consider it improper to do so on their part. Right. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that saintly people killing Vena was out of emergency, and now they further did not choose to become the kings and the government themselves. They had to do something. One thing is apad dharma, which is done out of emergency, but the emergency apad dharma should not become the regular dharma, right? It's very important. So, what is the learning here for us devotees is how much to get involved in politics, depends. Sometimes, in the name of being politically aware, of course, we should be politically aware. And, in terms of, we say that, right? Spiritually absorbed, socially alert, and and politically alert. And a devotee has to be politically alert. ISKCON, as a devotees, we have migrated 25 years back. We consider even voting was like too much participation in the material world. Now, devotees surely vote. Since last 3-4 elections, everybody is voting. We run the campaigns that people should vote for a good government. At the same time, there is a limit on how much we should be absorbed in politics. Right? Of course, this I'm speaking to myself more. That it is not that every Tom, Dick, and Harry comment on this politician speaking on this and this is happening, that is happening. At the end of the day, what is in our hands? Ordinary citizens. So, what is in our hands is, at the end of the day, go to the poll booth and vote. That is in our hands. So, what it means is that a devotee's energy should not be excessively go in political discussion and this and that, but they should preserve their energy for the spiritual activities, for betterment of their professional activities. And when they are supposed to do the needful, they should do the needful. Right? So, this is what the sages chose to do. They chose to, not that, they killed Vena, now all these disturbances are happening, and they are by mantras, they are killing this rogue, this thief. They said, no. Vena killing was out of emergency. Now there must be another king. Good king is the need of the hour. That's what they realized. Text 41. Brahmana samadrika shanto deenanam samupekshakah stravate brahma tasmapi bhinnamandat payo yatha. Translation.
The great sages began to think that although a Brahmana is peaceful and impartial because he is equal to everyone, it is still not his duty to neglect poor humans. By such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes, just as water kept in a cracked pot leaks out. Purport. Brahmanas, the topmost section of human society, are mostly devotees. They are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world because they are always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, it is said that due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. Almost all the sages go to the Himalayas for their personal benefit, but Prahlad Maharaj said that he did not want liberation alone. He decided to wait until he was able to deliver all the fallen souls of the world. In their elevated condition, the Brahmanas are called Vaishnavas. There are two types of Brahmanas, namely Brahmana Pandit and Brahmana Vaishnava. Qualified Brahmana is naturally very learned, but when his learning is advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes a Brahmana Vaishnava. Unless one becomes a Vaishnava, one's perfection of Brahminical culture is incomplete. The saintly persons considered very wisely that although King Vena was very sinful, he was born in a family descending from Dhruva Maharaj. Therefore, the semen in the family must be protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava. As such, the sages wanted to take some steps to relieve the situation. For want of a king, everything was being disturbed and turned topsy-turvy.
Yeah. The great sages began to think, although a Brahmana is peaceful, Shantaha, Samadrak, he is impartial and equal to everyone, but still it is not his duty to neglect the poor citizens, poor humans. Now, important point, by such neglect, a Brahmana's spiritual power diminishes just as the water kept in the cracked pot leaks out. So one cannot completely wall out of the society, saying that, oh, I have nothing to do. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains. The Brahmanas, now here Brahmanas are the spiritually absorbed personalities, needless to say, Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Right. The topmost section of the society are mostly devotees. Right. They are generally unaware of the happening within the material world because they are deeply absorbed in their activities of spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there is a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. One cannot say, okay, I have nothing to do with this world. Hell with the world and let them suffer. No. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of the human society, by such neglect, their spiritual knowledge will diminish. So, uh, along with the knowledge, one should also become soft hearted. And one should know, I mean, one should, and there is a delicate balance between being part of the society and at the same time not getting too absorbed in the society. And Srila Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj further, where Prahlad Maharaj says that I'm not like some jnani who just goes to Himalaya and wants his own liberation. Shoche tatho vimuka chetasa indriyarthan maya sukhaya bharam udvahato mi bodhan. My dear Lord, I want to stay here and preach the message so that people in general who are absorbed in Maya Sukha will come back to you. Prabhupada says there are two types of Brahmanas. One is the Brahman Pandit and another is a Brahmana Vaishnava. So when the understanding of the Supreme Lord increases, the Brahman Pandit will become Brahmana Vaishnava and naturally there will be a great compassion in such a personality. So it is not that, and that's why you will see that ISKCON also has many social programs, social responsibility programs, which are spiritualized. Food for Life is one, and then there are many such programs, and it happens on great pomp. I mean, billions of plates are being distributed of prasadam wherever there is a sudden flood, whenever there is an earthquake, wherever there is, the war-like situation. ISKCON will be. This is the purpose of this. That one cannot be at the same time. There is a delicate balance. One should not get too absorbed in the society. Neither one should get too away from the society. Both are detrimental. Text 42. Nangasya Vamsha. Another point here is in the purport. Prabhupada also writes that although birth of personality like King Vena in the dynasty of Dhruva was an accident because suddenly a wrong marriage had happened, Pratiloma marriage, where that Pratikul person got inside the marriage line. The semen in the family must be protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Keshava, because it is coming down from the Dhruva Maharaj's line. That Vamsha is extremely powerful, and therefore something had to be urgently done and to recover this calamity. In Kali Yuga, there is no vichara of Vamsha, right? Kalau Shudra Sambhava, Kali Yuga, everything becomes just topsy-turvy, Prabhupada writes. Very disturbed. Only way is chanting the holy names of the Lord and the purificatory process of devotional service. Text 42. Nangasya Vamsharajarshir Esha Samsthatumarhati Amohagavirya Hidrupa Vamshasmin Keshavashraya. Translation.
The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly King Aṅga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful and children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Purport: the purity of hereditary succession is called Amoghavirya. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purificatory processes beginning with the Garbhadhan Sanskar, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Aṅga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife Sunitha, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point and they decided to take action in this matter, as described in the following verses.
Yeah. Nangasya Vamsho. The great family of the great saintly King Aṅga, there was Vamsha cannot be suddenly stopped like this because this Vamsha was Amoga Virya. Children were prone to become great devotees of the Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, purity of hereditary succession is called as Amoga Virya. Right. And this is the pious succession of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. And this piety, the purity is maintained by Garbhodhan Samskar. And that's why you will see, up till even recently, the great person will give birth to a very great personality. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj giving birth to Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, right? And the succession like that. But the effect of Kali Yuga is such that all these successions, especially the purificatory process of Garbhadan Samskar, will be completely lost. And therefore, what happens is that gradually the sinful activities become visible in the family. It has become such a normal thing. I speak to so many NRI people, not devotees per se, but they said that, I don't eat non-vegetarian in my house. Bahari khate hum log. And then the grandmother goes and slowly the wine is introduced. "Oh, Mama, nothing it is, it is just the grape juice, just a fermented grape juice, Mama. Cool." And, and the whole thing, where you are going to stop? Where you are going to stop? Somewhere you are going to stop, right? And then of course, you will stop at not eating the humans alive or not eating and then naturally just glides down to, you just become any ordinary person, like, who is drinking wine and eating beef. So somewhere we have to stop, right? And therefore, the purity in the family has to be maintained. It's very important. Purity in the family has to be maintained. And it is the responsibility of the parents, not by force. No, that is the trick. Not by force or not by, some excessive restrictions. By making the family itself, family traditions themselves so attractive, by making spiritual life so attractive that one has to catch the imagination of the modern generation. First, our own imagination, and then the imagination of the modern generation. Imagination, I means that attention. And then they should be maintained within the flow. Otherwise, there is family traditions will be very easily lost. The purity of the family, Srila Prabhupada describing here about. Now, polluting the semen, it was polluted because of association with Sunita, who was the daughter of death personified. And therefore, there was a birth of King Vena, which was the catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. But Dhruva Maharaj's life is very pure, and the purity was need to be maintained. And as we will see, the next personality appearing is Prithu Maharaj, the great king. Text 43. Vinaischaityam Rishyo Vipanyasya Mahipate Manmatham Urutarasa Tatradvidahuko Naraha. Bahuko Naraha. Translation.
After making a decision, the saintly persons and sages churned the thighs of the dead body of King Vena with great force and according to a specific method. As a result of this churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Purport. That a person was born by the churning of the thighs of King Vena proves that the spirit soul is individual and separate from the body. The great sages and saintly persons could beget another person from the body of the dead King Vena, but it was not possible for them to bring King Vena back to life. King Vena was gone, and certainly he had taken another body. The saintly persons and sages were only concerned with the body of Vena because it was a result of seminal succession in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. Consequently, the ingredients by which another body could be produced were there in the body of the King Vena. By a certain process, when the thighs of the dead body were churned, another body came out. Although dead, the body of King Vena was preserved by drugs and by mantras chanted by King Vena's mother. In this way, the ingredients for the production of another body were there. When the body of the person named Bahuka came out of the dead body of King Vena, it was really not very astonishing. It was simply a question of knowing how to do it. From the semen of one's body, another body is produced, and the life symptoms are visible due to the soul's taking shelter of this body. One should not think that it was impossible for another body to come out of the dead body of Maharaj Vena. This was performed by the skillful action of the sages.
Yeah. So now, thinking like this, the saintly people, they churned the thighs of the dead body of Vena. The body was already preserved with right medicines and also with right mantras. And when this great churning took place with great force, as a result, a dwarf-like person, black in complexion, was born from the body of King Vena. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the person was born by churning the body proves that the spirit soul is different than the body. Right? Body is there. So although they were churning the body and bringing out the person, they were not able to bring Vena back to life. Vena was dead, he was gone. He left the body, he went to another body according to his own karma. But now, this body was churned and another personality was made, another personality took birth, and this prowess was possible. Right? So people may laugh at this, saying that, all these are like. But now it's very common practice that you will take the stem cell therapy even from the dead body. I don't know, not aware of whether they can do it from the dead body, but so this was the art known by the great sages, and by the skillful action of the sages, the Bahuka was the sin personified of the Vena, was born, and now next they are going to churn, and there will be appearance of great personality Maharaj Prithu and Rani Archi. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna, thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.